of weird with that stuff.
What's up, guys? How's it going? Welcome to Café Blanc podcast. This is Let's Talk Megaten with the one and only Strength 42. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing just fine. How are you doing tonight?
Doing good. It was kind of a crazy weekend, but I'm here. I'm fine, and I'm ready to talk about you and and more about the community and everything. So, for those of you that may not know anything about you, do you have like a elevator speech about what you do and who you are?
Yeah, so I've been doing Megaten content for, over 10 years now. I started in 2009 in the webcomic community with the Persona 3 for the win, the crudely drawn MS Paint webcomic. And then I was doing that series for till about 2017, so that lasted almost 10 years. And then in 2015, I wanted to start a YouTube channel, so that was right after I graduated college. And funny thing is, like, I'm kind of seen as a Megaten creator now, and, I was doing the webcomic and everything, but when I first started YouTube, I was actually trying not to do Megaten content, because I kind of didn't want to be seen purely as a Megaten creator, and, eventually you just kind of start, you talk about what you know and what you love, and that's just kind of how that goes.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, 100%. I totally feel where you're coming from. I actually didn't start doing Megaten content when I first started the channel, and it kind of just moved into that direction, if you will. Like I was doing other things, like more like Western RPGs type of thing, because I love to play Western RPGs. But somehow that changed into into Persona and Shin Megami Tensei content and everything. So it's kind of weird, kind of how it goes and everything. So when you
I
started your channel, what was your intention behind the channel? What were you trying to do?
So I had a lot of different ideas for when I first started the channel. Originally I was like, oh, I'm going to talk about like 3D platformers, because and that's why my first video ever was on Glover, the N64 game. And then for a while I was actually debating just doing like a series about just any game with monster raising mechanics. And I was like, that way I can talk about Megaten, I can talk about Pokemon, Monster Rancher, Legend of Mana, Final Fantasy Tactics. I was like, that'd be a great way to talk about all these games that I love. And I think eventually I just kind of realized I really just didn't want to limit myself to one thing. So I was just like, I'm going to talk about whatever sounds fun or interesting. I do look back at my earliest videos, and I did talk about games in that first year that I definitely would not have talked about now. Like, there was some, like, mini golf game on the PS1 that I played. I probably wouldn't do that these days, but it was fun trying different things, and that's kind of the great thing when you first start a channel is you don't really have that audience built up yet, so you can kind of experiment without, like, worry about alienation. You know, now if I upload a certain video, I'm like, oh, I'll upload this, I'll try something new, and I'll, you know, lose 50 subscribers, and it's like, oh, well, darn. But
right, yeah. Now you kind of have to be in a specific bubble, if you will. Although I know a lot of people, especially like the biggest content creators and stuff, they are so big, they're bound to have an audience for it. For us, like much smaller content creators, our core audience is basically our only audience, right? Like it's kind of hard to like break outside of like what we have as a bubble kind of thing. And it's kind of funny to see when a video does really good and it actually breaks outside of your bubble, because that's when you get a lot of interesting conversations about your video, right? As long as it stays within that bubble, it's typically like pretty stable and pretty normal. You know, like you do a video, you get some comments, you're like, all right, maybe you get like 5-10 new people and everything. But once in a while, there's a video that does really good, and you see it break outside of your core audience, and that's when you really see like so many different kind of comments, or sometimes bad, sometimes good. It's just interesting to see what comes out outside of what you typically know and see every day. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Something I started doing last year, and I've been having fun with these because they're kind of they're not as scripted as most of the content I do. Is I've been doing these like Megami Tensei ranking things where I'm just like, let's talk about all the new demon designs from this game, or let's talk about all the initial personas from this game. And yeah, those have definitely been kind of reaching outside of my usual audience, and it's very funny to me that I can always tell which opinions are going to get people mad, and it's always when I make fun of someone's demon waifu. It's like no one ever got mad that I gave like Koga Saburo a B, but I gave Aiden from SMT5 a B, and people hate me for that.
Yeah, there's
the funny thing is, like, I even said I liked Aiden. I just didn't give her a super high ranking.
Yeah, I think that's kind of funny, right? When you do a ranking video, because I do a lot of I've been doing these TikToks, not TikToks, but in YouTube, the shorts.
Oh, yeah,
like, where I just do like top 5, you know, it's like, it's my top 5 this, top 5 that, and it's really interesting because I have no descriptions, like I'm not, there's no words, I actually don't even talk on the videos, it's just literally a slideshow of my top 5, whatever, and it's crazy to see how many people just build assumptions out of that, like, oh, you don't like this song, you have shit taste. I'm like, I didn't say I didn't like it, you know, I just have space for 5 songs, or like 5 characters, and that's it, you know, like, it's not like, I'm not saying that the other character is bad, I'm just saying that I like these 5 characters, you know, it's like, it's not mutually exclusive, but it's really funny to see kind of like the reaction of other people just kind of from seeing your one video, like sometimes you do explain what you like the character more, or like, oh, okay, you didn't play the same game I played, or something like that, like, oh, you need to pay more attention about the lore behind this particular character, or something. I'm like, look, I just didn't like it as much, you know. I very famously remember saying that I don't like Akechi as a character, and that doesn't mean that I don't think he's a well-written character, because that's a completely different thing. Persona 5 has a lot of well-written characters, but I don't like Akechi as a character. I think he's just not a good character, but that doesn't mean that I hate him or anything. I just don't like him, you know, like, it's just, but it's a different thing. But then they'll like, that's like a whole column of worms, and I hear like the community just kind of being like, he's the best character. I'm like, okay, if you like him, good, you know, there's no problem with that, right?
Yeah, I'm not here to take that away from you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and that's thing. I think that's where ranking videos, particularly, or like ranking content, kind of is almost like a double-edged sword, because you get the people that will just like, oh man, this is such a based opinion, or like, oh, W list or whatever, right? And then on the other hand, you get the people that are like mad at you just for like you said, like ranking item a little smaller than you think, you know, like, or whatever, you know, something like that. It happens. It is kind of crazy.
Right. I only modestly lavished her with praise, and that's not good enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it happens. But it's also fun to kind of like see their reactions and everything. Because some people like certain characters more than others, and I think that's where it's also like a good conversation to have. As long as people keep it civil and everything, it's a fair conversation to see like where people are coming from and everything.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so what is your favorite demon? Now that you mentioned it, out of all Megaten, what will be like your like one of your favorite demons? Really, if you can say a few, if you have a few.
I mean, I definitely have quite a few favorites. My absolute favorite, if it's not obvious from like my little YouTube self, I do love Mothman. He is just super fun to me, and I actually kind of like I'm gonna sound like such a hipster for saying this. I hate how much of a meme Mothman is. Because then people think I only like him for that. And
for
it's
the
like,
meme, yeah.
right, it's like, no, I think he's cute, and he's from West Virginia, and I have family in West Virginia, so it's like, I grew up, like, being told stories of Mothman, so, like,
Right.
seeing this just awesome little cute design from this creature that I essentially grew up with, was always just really cool to me, and so, yeah, but yeah, I love Mothman, obviously, I love Jack Frost. I basically owe Jack Frost for me getting into Megaten, because it was like literally the first Megaten game I ever bought was DemiKid's Lite version, and I remember I went to some like little game shop, little hole in the wall game shop, and they had like a display case full of Game Boy Advance games, and I saw a Lite version, and the number one demon on that cover art that jumped out at me was Jack Frost. I was like, oh, that guy looks cool. Yeah, I just thought it was like Pokemon. I was like, that guy's cool. I'm gonna have him in my party. This looks like a monster raising game. And then you play DemiKids, and that game isn't very accommodating for using the demons you want. You pretty much have to be constantly swapping out. But it was fun. I like Jack Frost. I really like Lilith. That's another big one for me. I love Lilith and Dormarth, who is finally starting to appear in more games. I'm really excited about that. She's going to be in Soul Hackers 2. I'm super psyched about that.
Yeah, Soul Hackers 2 is looking pretty good, right?
I am genuinely excited for it. I am living for this like cell shaded demons.
Yes.
I am loving the look of it.
You know,
like Shin Megami Tensei 5 looked really good, but I also just kind of looked at it and I was like, that game was made with the Unreal Engine, and it felt like it. Like, I don't mean that as any kind of insult. I didn't really feel like the demons in SMT5 were particularly stylized at all. Like, it just kind of felt like... I'm not saying it looks bad or anything, but just like, I don't know.
I
but
think
like
I see exactly what you're talking about. I think Unreal Engine has a particular style. The way that it looks, it almost feels like... how do you say? Like... well, like every Unreal Engine game that I played looks a certain way. I don't know if that makes sense. And it almost feels like prefabricated, like copy paste. I don't know. I don't mean it like in a bad derogatory way, because Unreal Engine looks really good. It's a really good engine, but everything looks very samey. Does that make sense?
It reminds me of you ever see like those screenshots where people will like make like Bob on Battlefield from Mario 64 in Unreal.
Yeah.
That's what SMT5 kind of looked like to me. Like the demons had that very like it's like fake screenshot style. And I like that. This is not me bad mouthing SMT5 for its graphics or anything. It worked very well with the story it told. But the visual style of Soul Hackers 2 is definitely appealing to me a lot more, and I'm definitely excited
I
for
actually
it.
said the exact same thing the first time that I reacted to the original video. I felt the exact same way. I thought that it was a cool idea, like, but I really like the style of the game itself. I think the cel shaded style blends better for like a Megami Tensei game style. Although I don't know how you feel about this, but the other day I was thinking, you know how Square Enix is doing these new HD 2D games?
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Triangle Strategy.
Yeah. So how would you feel if they went back and did like Shin Megami Tensei 1 and 2 in like the I'm sorry, the HD 2D style of like a game. I think it will work out pretty well. I will be down for something like that.
I have actually talked about that with people. I know a lot of people have said, like, because early SMT has that, like, first-person dungeon crawling, you might have to actually, like... I don't think you'd have to redesign the dungeons, but I don't think it would work as well if you kept the first person. I think you could have the same layouts, but transition it more to a third-person view.
Yeah.
I don't, like, as much as I do like the HD 2D style... I don't think I would necessarily want to see that exact look for SMT. I like the idea of having a pixel-based HD remake of SMT1 or whatever. But it's like, I don't think I'd want it to look exactly like what Square is doing.
I don't mean exactly like it. I just meant on the style of like an HD.
Okay, I would definitely be down for that.
Yeah, like an HD pixel style game. Does that make sense more?
Yeah. I would prefer that over, like, it's like, oh, we made SMT1, but we made it look like SMT5. It's like, no, like, let it. I prefer the idea of keeping that sort of pixel style. HD pixel. I think it would be fine for something like that.
Yeah. Either way, I think it's a cool idea. But as far as the Soul Hackers game, I'm really excited for it. I think that is gonna do really well. I think it's resonating pretty well with the community. Although I know there's some haters already out there, but I personally think it looks great.
I was gonna say, I've been seeing a lot of negativity myself. I don't really agree with a lot of what I've seen. Like, some people I've seen with just, like, legitimate grievances, and to those people, I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. There's one dude, I don't remember his name, I wouldn't say it even if I did. He's just, like, you've probably seen this guy, too. Again, I don't remember his name, but he's famous on Twitter for hating Soul Hackers 2 right now. Like, that's, like, all he does.
Yeah. It is what it is. That's how some people are. I think every time they announce a new Megami Tensei game, you always get like a small crowd of people, really loud minority, that come out and just hate on it. And that's like, we've been on a computer, you and me have been in a community for over 10 years, so we know this happens all the time. Like, I mentioned it on my video, but when Shin Megami Tensei 4, which is a fan favorite now, when that came out, there was a lot of haters. There are a lot of people on the art style. Yeah.
People hated it because, they were like, they wanted it to be like Nocturne.
Right, yeah.
I remember people were not excited about that one. And then, there was another one that, like, people got really mad about. It was Persona Q. That's one of my that is one of my favorite stories ever to, like, it makes me feel like the old grandpa. Like, it's like, back in my day, this was this fun. But I don't remember if you did you watch. So you saw the like November event. Just for those of you that don't know, so Persona Q, Ultimax, Dancing All Night, and Persona 5 were all announced at like the same concert event. It was like November 13th or something. I don't remember the exact day.
The anniversary.
Yeah, it was like the big concert event. And for the record, I 100% believe that is going to be one of, if not the last, events for this Persona 25th anniversary. Like, so many people, I think every time an announcement rolls around, they think it's just going to be a new game or it's going to be a big announcement. I think they are going to have a lot of games to show, but I think they are going to save at least 2 or 3 of them specifically for like one event. And I think that is going to be one of the absolute last things we see. For people that didn't see the event back in 2013, I think it was 2013 or 2012. I think it was 2013. But yeah, it was like they'd been hyping up Persona 5. People were so excited for Persona 5, and then the first announcement they made was this trailer for Persona Q, which was Persona 3 and Persona 4 in chibi style. And
people of course hated it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Of course, Persona 5 got announced like 15, 20 minutes later, and we got that chair teaser that I'm going to say, like, I still maintain is terrible teaser. I get that they didn't want to show anything, and they're not supposed to. That's not the point of a teaser.
Yeah.
But that wasn't a good teaser. I was just like, I've seen better teasers.
I still don't know what the chairs was about, because the chairs was not a metaphor for anything in the game. Like, we played the game already. So, like,
yeah,
I get the shackles thing. The shackles thing
yeah, they
makes
have the
sense.
ball and chain.
Yeah.
I think that might have been a little bit before they fully knew what was happening with it.
Yeah, even then, like the very next trailer, the reveal trailer for Persona 5 actually showcases so much of Persona 5 that isn't even in Persona 5. Like Morgana, for example, which is actually a you can see Morgana with the Phantom Thief outfit opposed to being a cat in like reality, and like the way that the camera pans out is different. Like Shibuya actually looks very different.
Wasn't there also there are two things that I remember seeing from trailers that were not in the game, and I think one was like it was a shot of when they're all mice, but it was very clearly not Shido's ship. I think it was like Kamoshida's palace. There was some shot where they were mice in a place where they are not ever mice,
right?
And then one shot I remember is Joker being, like, on the subway, and then the subway, like, screeches to a halt, and he, like, falls forward.
Yeah, that accident, I remember that, too. I think the accident where that happens, Joker was supposed to be... at the very beginning, when he moves... Yeah, I think he was supposed to be in that bus the day of the accident. Well, or, like, not the bus, the train... the train on that same day. That's just my theory. But there's so many things that you can see from that trailer that they just never made it into the game.
And I always kind of like seeing stuff like that. I remember kind of the discussion. This is such a non sequitur. I don't know why I remember this so clearly. Is there was the very first teaser, like the second teaser or whatever it was, the one where we first saw Joker, and it was like, this is our protagonist. And everyone was making Harry Potter jokes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's like I was watching. I don't remember who did it. It was like I think I saw a couple different trailer analysis videos that all kind of did the same thing. And it was they were pausing the shot towards the end where Joker's standing in like the middle of the crowd. And
there was this girl, right?
There was some girl. Yeah, the girl with the scrunchie. Like, I saw, like, 3 different videos that were like, notice how this girl is, like,
dude,
so much more detailed
than every other person. I remember watching that video. I remember that video, yeah.
I saw, like, 3 different people that were convinced this was going to be a party member, and so, like, anytime there's talk of, like, a new Persona spinoff, I'm like, we're finally gonna get to see Scrunchy Girl.
It's like, it's probably time to admit that the girl was never important.
Weirdly enough, though, I feel like you could almost make an argument that she's like the prototype Yoshizawa. Like, the scrunchie turned into a ribbon, and she had like a kind of a ponytail. And...
yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, obviously, I'm not in any way insinuating that was their intention. Right. I don't believe that. But
no, I agree with you. One thing that I think is interesting is whenever you see the cut content. Fast, for example, he posts a lot of like cut content from Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal and stuff, and people assume that there's a lot of missing content from Persona 5 Royal, although it is over 100-hour game. But I want to mention this because I've seen a lot of comments like, I can't believe they cut so much stuff. It's very normal. Like, if you've been in the industry as long as like we've been playing games and stuff, it's very normal to see a lot of cut content. But it's crazy to see like newcomers be like, oh my god, I can't believe they cut so many things from the game. I'm like, no, it's not incomplete. It's just what happens with every game. I've seen a lot of cut content for other Megaten games, or like
stuff gets taken out. You know, they change their mind or they retool stuff. It happens.
Yeah, but it's cool to see what they cut off for like very initial. One of the things that I remember, for example, that I fell in love with before Persona 4 came out, or around the same time Persona 4 was announced. I remember there was a sketch of like this girl with short hair. It's like a sketch on black. It's just a sketch. It's not like a color thing or anything like that. of Persona 4, and it has like a really different font for Persona 4. It basically looks like a small town murder mystery type, but not the way that they did Persona 4, but more of like the mystery. It's more of a mystery. Like you can tell so much from like that picture. I don't know if you remember that. It's like
I know which one you're talking about. I think it's in the little art book that GameStop gave out if you pre-ordered.
Right.
It way back then.
Exactly. Yeah. And I remember looking at that and being like, man, this game is gonna be like a scary game, like a horror, mystery murder game for Persona. That's gonna be cool. Don't get me wrong. I like what we got with Persona 4, but when every time that I remember and I see that particular sketch, I'm like, man, what could have been?
I definitely I know I've kind of have a little bit of a reputation for being a little bit of a harsher critic of Persona 4, and I do like Persona 4. Like I don't dislike it or anything. But yeah, I do wish the mystery aspect of it had been a little bit stronger. I always felt like that was kind of one of the weaker parts of Persona 4 just structurally.
Yeah.
Is
I agree with you.
The mystery almost felt like a B story.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I don't like about Persona 4, and I mentioned this many times, I think it has like a tonal, it's like very confusing tonally, because it'll be like, okay, let's go to the beach or something like that, and then a murder happens. I'm like, okay, well, let's go to the park now. Like there's like, they cannot let the team or like the story marinate in like certain aspects where like there's like a really stressful part of the story or something really really like sad is happening, but the game doesn't want you to be sad long enough for you to like feel those things. They don't really like let you sink in the feelings and like feel what's going on and everything, because it's just going towards the next, okay, well, let's go to the beach now, or like let's go to just do something else, like have some funny or some fun stuff or something. So like I feel like tonally it makes absolutely no sense. It's like happy sometimes, like scary sometimes, and
I feel like, and I don't necessarily know what atmosphere I was going for, but it's like, to me, Inaba never felt like, oh, this is a small town that is dealing with an active serial killer case. Like, no one ever seems really all that concerned about it, or affected by it, and that's why, like, I don't necessarily like him as a character, but, Saki's brother, Naoki, I think, Naoki is,
Yeah.
He is one of my favorite social links in all of Persona, like 3, 4, and 5. Because he is one of the few times where I felt like it's like, this is a character who is not really in any way part of the main story, but is telling a story where he is very obviously affected by the events of the main plot.
Yeah.
And that is something I really liked, and I'm kind of sad that like there aren't more social links like that. Like,
I like the character. I like the story, what they did with the character, but I didn't like the character itself. It was on the other...
Naoki's not anything special. I like more his social link for what it represents, but it's like, I feel like that's something like they could have potentially done with other characters. Like for example, the old couple from Persona 3, Bunkichi and Mitsuko, I think are their names.
Persona 3?
Yeah, the old couple that runs the bookstore. Yeah. Like, their story was like, oh, our son is dead. Because a lot of social links in that game have dead people in them, which is fitting for Persona 3's theme. But it's like, I almost felt like, it's like, instead of being dead, couldn't he have just been like, I know obviously he died a long time ago, that's the point with the tree and everything, but it's like, I feel like he could have been like an apathy syndrome victim or something. Like, it could have been, it could have tied more into what is happening in Persona 3 and why we have to defeat why we have to shut down the Dark Hour, because we see people with apathy syndrome and you're like, oh, that's weird and that sucks, but it's like, it never really feels like, it's like, oh, this is why we need to get rid of the Dark Hour. It's like, because
I think the only time where I think it actually does reflect pretty well, and it doesn't happen in Persona 3 or Persona 3 Fest, which is why I think Persona 3 Portable actually does better, is that there's this board missions where you go to a board and you get to rescue people,
Yeah,
and
I liked that mechanic.
yeah, I think it's a great mechanic because it kind of gives you a way of like, okay, well, people are going missing, like people are possibly dying even in Tartarus, like so.
Yeah, and one thing I actually really liked about that was two of the people that get sucked in there are your social links, are Bunkichi and Maiko, the little girl. And
Yeah, the little girl, yeah.
if you don't rescue them, you
They're
don't
gone.
get to
Yeah.
they're gone. Yeah,
Yeah.
You can't do their social links anymore, which I think is a pretty cool mechanic. I will say one thing though, I get why they didn't do this. But I think this would have just been a pretty cool little extra Easter egg. Is okay, so if you don't rescue them, their social link is gone, right? You don't get to interact with them anymore. That's fair. But you know how, like, at the end of the game, you get to have, like, an extra scene with every character whose social link you finished? I feel like something they could have added in Portable that I would have liked to see. I know it would have been extra work for something that nobody would have really cared about. But, like, if you finished those social links before they got sucked into Tartarus, I feel like you should still have a scene at the end of the game, but have it be like a sad scene. Because those characters, like with Maiko, you don't interact with Maiko at the end of the game when you beat her social link, you interact with her dad. And I feel like that could have been a much different scene if it's like, oh yeah, you maxed her social link, but then she still got afflicted with apathy syndrome, and you could have had a completely different conversation with her dad at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's like, I liked that mechanic. I always felt like they could have done a little bit more with it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it would be an interesting way to look at it. But anyway, I think that's one of the things that we as like content creators are like, because we're looking back at a game from what 12 years ago, 15 years ago. We get like such a different experience from like playing it for the first time. We now have like and that's one thing that I think a lot of the people forget sometimes, where like especially new players that are coming from like Persona 5, they're like, oh man, I hate the social links from Persona 3. I'm like, yeah, but Persona 3 literally created the social links. There's a reason why they're not as like well thought out or like expanded. They were
going to be a little rougher on the edges.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of people forget that. Like, it's not every Persona game, and I feel very strongly about Megaten in general. Every single Megaten game builds up from each other. Like, if you look at something like Shin Megami Tensei 1 and 2, and then you look at Shin Megami Tensei 3, like the press turn system is a new thing. Literally, for the third-person camera is a new thing. Like, there's so many things that builds from every game going for it. And then people forget that. I think when they go back and play another game, they forget, like, every single game builds on top of each other. I think that's what makes this series so good, like, in general. What is Megaten or Persona? It's just something that it's an actual improvement, I think.
I do feel like with the press turn system, like that is one of the few things where it really just feels like they got it right from the beginning. It's like I mean there's a reason they still use it. They haven't really gone away from it too much.
Yeah,
like the press turn system is just such a good mechanic. I think and this isn't a fault of the system. I obviously get why it's there, because it makes things like Tsukukaja and Sukunda a lot better. I never really liked how many press turns you lost for missing, because then it was just like...
That's just bullshit there.
It's like RNG can screw up your... Not just like, oh, I missed that turn, but it's like, oh, now your healer doesn't get a turn because RNG.
Yeah, that's terrible.
but like that's a risk you take, Mm-hmm. Like if you were like, okay, if this boss has used Tsukukaja on itself and I desperately need to heal this turn, I can pass and I can get a half turn and make sure my healer gets to do their thing. So that's I love the press turn system. I do. It's one of my favorite battle systems in all of Megaten, and in general I've always liked how Megaten, like almost every series has some battle strategy specifically designed around rewarding players for playing strategically, beyond just like, oh, this is a fire demon, you use ice and it does more damage. It's like, that's cool, but it's like, I love how there's always a semblance of like some sort of reward. Like in Raido, you hit them with their weakness, they don't get to move for a while, and in like the in King of Baden specifically, that's how you can like refill your oh god, what was it called? The not Magatama, the Magitite, whatever. Your MP basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I love that system, and then Tokyo Mirage Session has the sessions, and Devil Survivor has the extra turn system, and Persona, of course, has one more. I always really like how they work those battle systems.
Yeah, they all got their own little thing and everything. I love that too. I think that is pretty cool. Although I don't know, it's crazy to think like how some fans go, oh, this is shit. I'm like, it's literally the same thing. It just has a different name. Like
right.
you can act like you're the tough shit or anything, but it's literally the same thing. Like there are some obvious differences between like the press turn and the one more or whatever, but overall it's like the same kind of idea. It's not like Strange Journey, for example. Strange Journey has a very different style of like the gameplay. It doesn't really have the press turn system. It has something different, and it does different combos and stuff. But when it comes to things like the press turn system and the one more, it's basically like very similar to each other. Like it's not like it's not super different, right?
Right.
But pretty cool. Pretty. I love how they build up from each other, which is something that I feel like Pokemon doesn't. As like I was a big Pokemon fan, and kind of like seeing the series, I'm like, man, you guys been wasting a lot of time, not like really improving on everything they could be. I feel like that sometimes.
Yeah, like I say this as someone who still absolutely loves Pokemon, but it's like the best thing to me Persona Pokemon ever did mechanically was way back in Generation 4 when they did the physical special split. That was literally a game changer. That was an incredible thing to add to the franchise. And that worked so incredibly well. And they've done new things since then, and people are always like, oh, Pokemon's never really changed, and it's like I watched a video back when Black and White came out, where this person beat Cynthia, the hardest trainer in the game, defeated her using a team of all level 1 Pokemon through a combination of just like abilities and moves and held items, and that's something you could not do in Generation 1. So anytime people say like Pokemon has been the same game for however many years, it's like, no, they do tweak it, but I do feel like lately, especially the past couple gens, for better or worse, it does kind of just feel like they've just been like, here's this new idea, and then because it was Gen 6 had Mega Evolutions, which I didn't really like. Gen 7 had the Z moves, which they were fine, they were harmless enough, and then Gen 8 had like Gigantamax Pokemon.
Yeah, it just feels like they're adding a gimmick to the game opposed to like actual like mechanics.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll have something similar to that in Gen 9, and whatever it is, I'll look forward to it. I always just look forward to seeing the new Pokemon, new region. That's just always what I like to see. I will say though, Gen 7 gave us the regional variants, like, oh, it's Executor, but he's really tall, and it's Vulpix, but it's a Snow Vulpix, and I love the regional variants. That has been like my favorite thing Pokemon has ever added. I understand it's also just a gimmick, but it's one that I really like. So I'm like, I'm totally on board with it.
Of course, yeah. No, I totally agree with that. So, I'll be curious to see what Pokemon does next, like in the next. I know that they're doing right now. What is it? Scarlet and
Scarlet and Violet.
Violet, yeah. I think it's gonna be cool, but I don't know. I'll have my reservations. I'll wait until they have more like actual gameplay and everything. But I don't know. I think for the biggest franchise in the world, I just think like it's not doing as good as it could. But I think it's also because they know that people are gonna buy it regardless of like how much of an improvement it is.
It's part of that, but unfortunately, and I was reading kind of about this, and it's something that's sort of an unfortunate reality. Is people are Pokemon's the biggest franchise ever. Like we say, but it's like, but the games are really only a small kind of fraction of that, and it's like because the Pokemon Company, it's like they've got to do anime, they've got to do the anime, they've got to do the trading card game, they got to get new packs out for that. So it's like, it's almost like it's rushed. The games get rushed because it's the biggest franchise in the world, and they don't really have time. They don't really. They're not really given the time to get that polish that they deserve, and that's why like so many of the kind of like spin-offs, that's why like new Pokemon Snap and to some extent like Arceus. I know Arceus is not considered a spin-off; it's treated as a mainline game, but it's like those ones generally do feel like they have more new ideas because they're not those mainline games. They're not those ones that are being forced and rushed out. So it's like that's why they have that more polish to them, because they're allowed to have that time, which I love, but I think is very sad at the same time.
It's crazy, but and on the other hand, you get other series like Digimon, for example, which has had such a big like change on like the way they do the gameplay and like the storytelling and everything, with like the newest games. Like I think I played Cyber Sleuth, and I was like, wow, this is really good.
I'm amazed that Digimon has kind of managed to I'm sure diehard Digimon fans will tell me that it never left, but to me, Digimon felt like a series where, in the West at least, or at least in the States, I don't know, maybe it was like really popular in Europe or something, but Digimon to me really felt like a series that had kind of died over here. It was like, I remember it was like, we got the anime and Digimon World 1. I love Digimon World 1 and like some of the other games. And then I remember there was a period where it was like, there were just Digimon games that we were not getting, like redigitized, and there was like one that was actually based on the anime for the PSP that we never got.
Oh yeah.
And it just felt like these big Digimon games that people really, really wanted, and they were just like, we're not gonna, the America doesn't need Digimon, and it was like, but we want it. And then I feel like, with like, maybe not specifically with them, but like, then we eventually got like Cyber Sleuth and Digimon World Hacker's Memory, which I've not actually played, but I heard is much more of the like, almost more like pet sim open world of like the original Digimon world, which which makes me think I should play it, because I like Cyber Sleuth, but Cyber Sleuth was just very much like it was a party based RPG essentially.
Yeah, it was basically a lot of people do compare it to Megaten, because it does have a lot of Megaten elements.
It kind of does, yeah. Like it's like, obviously I get, they're both just like cyber themed RPGs with a lot of monsters in them. So I'm not trying to, in any way say like one ripped off the other, but there are some similarities.
Yeah.
I think it's okay. I think it's okay to point that out.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's fine. It's fair.
And just the fact that Cyber Sleuth has the same character designer as Devil Survivor. So like,
100%,
if we ever got a 3D Devil Survivor, it would probably look like Digimon Cyber Sleuth.
Yeah, that's the elephant in the room, right? Like it is what it is, Which, by the way, we need that Devil Survivor 3.
I am like, so supposedly my understanding is like, because the actual team that developed the Devil Survivor games, I guess, either went away or doesn't work with Atlas anymore, and that's kind of why. But it's like it blew my mind that we did not get Devil Survivor 3 for the 3DS. I was like, DS3 on 3DS, it writes itself, like, especially with how well like both of the ports of the first games, like of 1 and 2, did on the 3DS, and I was very, because I actually really like Devil Survivor. The Overclocked is probably in my top 3 Megaten games.
Yeah, they're really good. One thing that I want to say about those games is, I love how different it feels, because it is definitely a Megaten game, but it has its own atmosphere. The character writing feels a certain way. It's almost like, although they do say that Persona is very anime, and like the style of it, Devil Survivor had something that felt like an anime, but like a, like it reminds me of anime like Death Note, or like those like very smart type of anime that requires like a lot, like a really more like detailed plot line where there's like a lot of twist and the characters, like they have like a lot of like smarts to it and everything. I like that kind of stuff, and the villains particularly on the Devil Survivor games, they're like super genius type of like interesting like plots they have with the characters and everything. I like that.
I've kind of mentioned this before, and usually whenever I talk about this, people are either like, oh yeah, I totally get what you mean by that, or they just get mad because I'm insulting one or both of their series. But to me, I always saw Devil Survivor, more so the first one, specifically the first one, as almost like a really good middle ground between like the themes and storytelling and atmosphere that people loved about like classic Shin Megami Tensei, where it was like you had like more philosophy-based alignment systems and the cyberpunk elements and like summoning demons through the internet and your choices can result in characters dying, and it was like a lot of the things that I felt were very classic SMT were in Devil Survivor, but also a lot of the things people liked about more modern Persona was kind of there, where like the emphasis on characters and that sort of social
like
element,
the relationships between the different characters, and what you tell them, because what you talked with these characters does reflect on the endings that you get. Like the kind of conversations that you have, that it may not feel like it does have an impact on like the outcome of certain characters. Like you were saying, like some certain characters die, depending on your actions and everything like that.
I'm not gonna say who. I 100% got someone killed in my first playthrough. I wasn't particularly I wasn't particularly broken up about it.
Yeah,
because I didn't really like that character that much. But at the same time, like you definitely have that realization of like, oh, that was my fault. Like, I could have prevented that.
Yeah. There's definitely a kind of like an aha moment where you're like, oh man, like that was my bad.
Yeah, my B.
Yeah, I like that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that I miss, because it's not so in your face of like bonds and like friendship is magic type of thing, but it does have like that nice character development with a different, like as you're talking to them and everything like that. It feels more organic, I think, than something like going through the social links in like Persona or something.
Yeah, I like the feeling. I like the feeling of knowing that it was like my specific choices did it, because like, okay, so like I said, when that happened in Devil Survivor, I was like, okay, that was the direct result of a series of choices that I'd made. But then, like, to kind of jump over to a different game, and again, I'm not going to say which character this is or anything, but when I played, okay, what's the Fire Emblem that nobody liked? Fates.
Fates. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like, I didn't hate it or anything, but yeah, like, when I think, like, Fates, Awakening, and Three Houses, I do think Fates is... But I remember, like, there's a character in Fates where basically it was, like, at a certain point in the story, this wasn't based on any... you could argue it was my quote-unquote choices, but there's just a certain character where it's like, oh, if you get to this point in the story, and they are not at, like, friendship level A with Corrin, they just die. And I'm like, that's not a choice. That's just forcing me to hang out with this character. That, like...
Yeah, that you may or may not like. Yeah, I agree with you. I think I
was annoyed by that.
Kind of that. And that's why I don't like, particularly on Persona 5 Royal, for example, where you have to get Marukis to the max before a specific time frame, so you can get that additional thing and everything. Otherwise, you just get the regular ending opposed to the third semester and everything. Because unless you knew that, unless you knew it going into it, and I actually got comments from people that didn't get that third semester because they didn't hang out with Maruki. The game doesn't ever tell you, hey, this character may be super important and you may want to talk to him more often,
Right. I mean, like, yeah, and that's a tricky one, because it's like, as someone who played the original Persona 5, like, obviously I was like, oh, it's a new game and this is a new character. Of course I'm going to hang out with this person. But yeah, like, if that's your first introduction to Persona 5, like, you don't necessarily think, like, oh, this is the special character. I should definitely hang out with them.
Yeah, I was thinking, and that's where kind of the game kind of tricked me too, because If you played previous Persona games or previous Megaten games, characters like Alex in Strange Journey or Marie in Persona 4, they are the character, right? Like the character that affects the plotline in a major way.
Right.
But Kasumi in Royal doesn't do that, and that was like my fake out for me, where I was like, okay, I'm gonna hang out with Kasumi. You know, she seems like she's the character for this time around and everything, and then that doesn't happen. I was like, that was a fake out. I actually kind of appreciated that because they played with like the expectations of a fan that has been playing these games for a while. I was like, okay, that was a little bit different because I did expect her to have a much more bigger role than she did. No spoilers or anything, but her role wasn't as impactful as like in other Megaten games when you get like that additional new character. Even on the sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think it's interesting to see like they always have the new character that affects the plot in some kind of major way. I don't know if I like that or not. I don't think I'm a big fan of like brand new character just completely changes something in the game to make it like. I guess they want to give it the word of a replay. Would you agree with that?
That's a big part of it for me. Like I've kind of talked about this before. I love new characters. Like to me, that is like that is what makes or breaks the kind of the remake for me. Like for example, I don't particularly like Marie. I'm not gonna say that I do. I don't hate her or anything, but I'm glad she's there. I feel like I like what she more or less brings to the game. And similar with Yoshizawa, like Yoshizawa is the character where I'm just like, gun to my head, I can't tell you what her personality is. Like, I'm just like, she's nice. That's like, I know someone's gonna correct me and be like, oh no, she's so much more than that. And it's like, okay, whatever. But yeah, I like when they bring in the new characters because I like expansions to the lore. Whether it's good or bad, I very rarely do I see a character that actually makes me be like, okay, I really don't like what you brought to the table. I think Alex is probably the closest for me. I did not like Alex.
Yeah,
from Strange Journey.
I think a lot of people have the same feelings about Alex or Marie in Persona 4.
I remember the one that kind of confused me was like, so we got Tokyo Mirage Sessions Encore, and they didn't do a new character. Like,
oh yeah, that's right.
There is no because I remember like I did a video years ago talking about like how I'd love a Switch port of Tokyo Mirage Sessions and what they could do with it, like enhanced port, and it is actually creepy how many things I got right in that video, like down to weirdly specific stuff where I was like, give Yashiro a Demonica suit, and he has one in Encore, and I'm like, sweet. But yeah, the one thing I really thought they would have done if they did a port was add in that new character, add in that TMS equivalent of Marie or Dante or whoever. Like, yeah. But yeah, they didn't. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's just well, the thing about Alex, for those of you who haven't played Strange Journey, it's not necessarily the character itself. I will say it's just how she's implemented and how it changes the plot of Strange Journey from Redux to the original game. So she not only does she kind of is a character there, but she also does affect the plot in a way that it doesn't feel like maybe should. I'm trying to go around without spoiling things, but it's not just her in the story. I think it's the not only her being there, but also the way that she affects the plot of the game, opposed to the original Strange Journey. So hopefully that kind of clears that up. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I've kind of talked about this a little bit before, and it's I'm not going to go super into spoiler details or anything, but yeah, my kind of complaint with Alex was so normally I feel like when you have the new character, their job is to expand on what's there. It's like Marie, you do the stuff with Marie, you do her event, you can still get the true ending in Persona 4, and then it's like, because you did the stuff with Marie, you get a little bit extra, you get a little bit more information. It's expanding, but if you don't do that stuff, you still get a perfectly good ending. in Strange Journey Redux, Alex's role was basically to show up and be like, so those endings, those perfectly good endings from Strange Journey, those are bad endings. Like, I'm here to make it so those, you don't do those. Those are the bad endings. And I'm just like, I thought they were fine. Like, I don't like your attitude.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like it's a weird kind of thing. I think it kind of almost like Apocalypse in what's his name, Dagda. And all that kind of stuff. You could say it's almost like that because Apocalypse is very forceful as far as like doing a neutral ending. But there's like a question of like, okay, well, what kind of neutral are we talking, right? How neutral you want to be? Because it's not just chaos, law, and neutral in Apocalypse. It's like, well, there's like good neutral and bad neutral.
that was something I actually kind of liked about I liked about Apocalypse, because Apocalypse is very clearly built on the neutral ending from SMT4. It's kind of a weird, not like a mid-quill, but it takes place like during that ending or like going off the events of that ending. So I like that it's already kind of headed towards that neutral path. And then I like that it's not just one ending of neutral.
Right, yeah, it does expand, but also like I struggle to like even wanna be like we're talking about with man, I forgot his name. I just said it.
Dagda.
Dagda, yeah, because I don't know. I didn't think he was like that good of a character with you. Although he's
so okay. So this is just kind of to show my mind. So I will say this: Dagda is an asshole. Like 100%. He's just an unbelievable dick. If you've never played Apocalypse, but for some reason, because it was just very, very funny to me, I spent the entire game pretending that he and I were best friends. Like, I just had Nanashi, like, pretending that he was over the moon, super excited to work with Dagda, like, drew, like, bad crayon drawings of Nanashi and Dagda together that say, like, best friends, and, like, the S is written backwards. I loved the idea of just being like, you got it, best buddy! So when it came time to the ending, where it's basically like, side with Dagda or side with your friends, even though, again, I don't want to go too into spoilers, but it's like siding with Dagda is generally not seen as the way you want to go. I didn't even hesitate. I was just like, you got it, best buddy! So that's just how I kind of treated it, and I had a lot of fun with it.
That's the difference between playing a Megaten, because you can do it so many ways, right? You can roleplay and just kind of get in the story and everything. But then you can also be like, well, logically speaking, outside of like somebody that is not in the story, right? Like, what do I think is like the best course of action? And you can also just vote with your feelings. That's why I like getting like those really controversial, I guess, if you will, like decisions, because you're like, okay, well, there's no really right and wrong in this particular answer, right? It's just kind of like, it's all fucked up all around. Like SMT4 did that really well. Where like, I mean, it's either way, like law, chaos, neutral, it's still kind of fucked up. Like regardless of whichever you choose.
Yeah. Like it's not like Fable, where it's like, this is very clearly the good option, this is very clearly the evil option. And kind of speaking in regards to choices there, that's I think I mentioned this game a little bit just because I have been obsessed with it. Is Triangle Strategy. That game genuinely, because like so for those of you that haven't played it, choices actually play a major part in that game. Not like choices where it's like, not like Telltale style choices where it's like, oh, I do this. It's like, oh, this character will remember that. There are multiple points throughout the game where essentially like you're presented with 2 or 3 options. You speak with your other characters. They all have their idea of what they want to do. You actually do not get to pick what you want to do. Essentially, everybody votes. And you have the power to, like, present an argument and kind of try to convince people to your side. But eventually, like, the characters have their own ideas and what they want to do. And that idea of choices is really good. And there's one moment in the game where it's like, you essentially, you are essentially being pulled into a battle that you are, I don't want to say not supposed to be able to win, but is very stacked against you. And there's it's like, okay, it's like, well, we can win this fight, but we will have to do this really horrible thing. And I was playing the game, and I was like, well, can I still win if I don't do the horrible thing? And I didn't do the horrible thing. And the game acknowledged that, and that felt so good, where I was just like, I was somehow still able to win without doing the horrible thing. And one of the characters is even just flat out, he's like, haha, we didn't even need to do the horrible thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, yay! So I like that the game acknowledges that.
Yeah, you know what? I've been playing Elden Ring, and they actually do something similar. There's a part in the story that is kind of like you had to beat this one boss to be able to continue the story. But in order to beat that boss, there is this faction that you have to join. And they basically tell you that you have to hunt down your friends, like your faction. You have to kill members from your own faction. And even the characters are like, yo, are you really gonna do that? Because that's kind of fucked up if you're gonna do that, right? And there's actually a way for you to kind of just find the boss without doing all these missions and betraying your own people and everything. And the game actually acknowledges the fact that you did that. You know, later on, there's a character that kind of tells you, hey, I'm very glad that you didn't do the bad thing and haunted your friends and everything. And I was like, I love that this game acknowledged the fact that I didn't try to kill these other people. Although the game very much encourages, you're going to get all these benefits. You're going to get this. There's this amulet that you can get that you can actually heal every time that you injure a enemy. Which honestly, in a game like a Souls game,
I was gonna say that seems a little broken. I'm sure it's balanced because
it's
knows what they're doing.
Yeah, but it's a really good item. But at the same time, it's kind of like it presents you with the option. Okay, well, you can get this item if you go through all this haunts and everything. But the game is also gonna shame you for doing it. And I like that. I think that gives you like that feel good moment. I was like, yeah, I did the right thing, and feel. But yeah. Have you been playing any other new games or any games that you're looking forward to playing?
Rune Factory 5 comes out tomorrow, and that is going to take up my life for a while. I am tomorrow, as of the time of recording this. I guess I should specify that. I got the email today that was like, yeah, your package will be there tomorrow, and I was like, yay. I love Rune Factory. I love because I love like day-to-day farm games. Like I get super sucked into Stardew Valley and Harvest Moon and everything. And then Rune Factory is like, hey, all this stuff that you love about like farming sim, but you can also raise monsters, and there's fun JRPG stuff, and like, you know, you can date like an elf waifu, or like I think in this game there's like a cat girl, and I'm like, yes, I want to do that. So
I never actually played that series, but I've seen it, but I never played it before.
I was gonna say, yeah, if I can do a plug, I actually have a video on a Rune Factory game going up tomorrow. I did a video. I'm doing a video on Tides of Destiny, and that'll be up tomorrow at noon Eastern time.
All right, well, check it out, guys. Now you know we can check that out and learn more about Rune Factory together.
Yeah, Tides of Destiny was the weird kind of like Gaiden spin-off where you like explore islands and stuff. It was interesting. But I'm very excited for 5. I think 5 is going to be really good.
Nice. Well, guys, you hear that? Definitely follow Strain's channel. It's gonna be in the description down below if you wanna check the link there. So yeah, check it out. He does not only Megaten, but a lot of different JRPGs that he likes and everything. I think very recently we did a collaboration video about Mara.
Yeah, a big Megaten collaborative work on Mara. I was very, very proud of how that video turned out, and it was just great to work with so many people on that one.
Definitely. Okay, what about you? Question for you says Baby Girl Official. It says Persona 3 FES or Persona 3 Portable.
Like which one do I prefer?
Yeah.
I mean, I generally do prefer FES. I acknowledge there are a lot of cool things in Portable, and like, ideally, I would like a version that combines all the best elements of both. But yeah, I overall just prefer FES. I like seeing it more like from that third-person camera and not the visual novel style. And I do really like Korone though, and some of her social links are fun.
Yeah.
But yeah I like it. if you were to ask me which one I'd rather replay, I'll usually just go back to Fess.
Makes sense. Yeah, I like both too. I like the visual novel aspect because of the portability aspect, but nowadays in 2022, I'm not really doing a lot of portability games anymore. I am mostly at my house, so the portable aspect of a game and console no longer attracts me in any kind of way. So I'm like, yeah, like Fest, I think it's probably a game that I can probably replay more often than portable. But yeah, I like both. I think they're both good. They both have their pros and cons. Some things that I like more than others and everything.
Yeah, and that's that like there's. I mean, there's rumors of almost everything Persona related right now with the Persona 25th thing, but one of the rumors that I feel a lot of people have been talking about is the idea that Persona 3 is going to get some sort of remake or remaster or some sort of re-release, and like I've heard everything from like it's going to be a full-blown remake to it's just going to be portable on the Switch to it's going to be like a weird almost like bundle pack of Fess and portable to like a remaster that, like I said, to me, ideally, like I feel like at that point they almost should just do a full remake. But it's like the idea of taking everything that works in portable and everything that works in Fest and just kind of combining them together. I think one thing I don't like about portable, I'm really not a fan. I get why they did it because it's portable, and it's less stuff for them to have to try and put on the UMD. But portable got rid of the ability to give the protagonist any weapon, and I really liked that in Persona 3 because Persona 3 had the different types of physical damage, so a lot of the times the weapon I used was sort of dependent on what party I made, like if I wanted
what
to use...
enemy you were going to fight too, like bosses that are weak to a particular thing or something,
because like in portable, if you want a party member that uses a strike-based weapon, you pretty much have to use Akihiko. He's essentially your only option. But in Persona 3 Fest, I could just give Makoto, like, a giant hammer or something, or boxing gloves. I liked that. But yeah, so that was a minor peeve of mine from Portable. But I think both games are definitely good. I still have both. I enjoy both. But, yeah, I'd probably go back to Fest more often than not.
So Monkey D. Luffy Girl says, Stardew Valley is hell addictive. You like Stardew Valley as well?
Oh, I love Stardew Valley was a game that, like, I did not play it when it came out. I think I don't think I started playing it until probably around 2020, around the time, like, all the COVID stuff started happening, because I knew that I would get sucked into it. I knew that I'd be like, if I start playing this, I'm not going to stop playing this, and I think I've put like almost, I think like 500 or 600 hours into Stardew Valley.
Oh my god, yeah.
it is, I love that game. It's so addictive. And it's like every now and then I'll just be like, I could start a new farm, and they keep putting out free updates for it, so I'm just like, I can start a farm and do new things. I will say though, and I get that the point of this was supposed to be the challenge, but it's like the newest farm he made is like the beach farm, which has some cool stuff. You can collect like seashells, and it's a good fishing spot and everything. But he was like, oh, on the beach farm, you can't use sprinklers. And I was just kind of like, screw that. Like, sprinklers are way too useful. I'm not going back to not having those. But yeah, I love Stardew Valley.
Yeah,
Abigail is best
those games. I'm just not. I don't like those kind of games. I like games where I'm doing like more like action stuff.
Yeah, and that's perfectly, and that's why, like, I think you'd like Rune Factory, because like I said, like Rune Factory is like, if you're ever at a point where you're just like, oh, I don't really feel like farming. I don't really feel like just talking to people. Grab your favorite weapon and go into a dungeon and fight some stuff, because like the combat is still fun. That's Stardew Valley has combat. I do think it's one of the weaker elements of the game. I don't think the combat is really anything special in that game, but in Rune Factory it's usually pretty polished. It's a good like action RPG.
Interesting.
But yeah, like I get that those games are not for everybody. For me, it's just that dopamine rush of just like, you have a day that lasts, like, in-game day lasts, 15, 20 minutes or whatever. and you're just like, I got so much stuff done today. Like, today was the day I went to the mines, or like, today was the day my pumpkins came in, or like, today was the festival, or like, I got Abigail to notice me, and like I love that stuff.
Nice. Coogan asked your thoughts on Goro's confidant in Royal.
I did like it better in Royal because I felt like in the original when it was story based, I don't know. The fact that it was story based was almost in itself kind of a big red flag for me. I liked the idea more of it just being a one that you kind of had to go out of your way to do. And I like that you get the cell phone and it tells you, because so often it's like I'd go like run up to him, I'd be like, hey Goro, you want to hang out? And he'd be like, I'm far too busy to hang out with you. And it's like, okay, cool. And then you get a text like 2 months later, he's like, I can hang out now. And I'm like, thank you. I appreciate the game kind of letting me know when he's available to hang out.
Yeah, right.
Because after a while, you don't want to run. You don't want to run there every single night to be like, can you hang out? No. Okay, bye. Like,
and that's it.
So I appreciated it. Yeah, I liked a lot of his. I liked a lot of his events in that. Yeah, it was fine. I don't.
Yeah, I think forced story-based social links don't work in Persona.
I like it. I mean, okay, like, I don't hate it as a concept itself. Like, for example, like Sai's confidant, I thought worked really well.
Yeah.
Because that is a confidant that built naturally, especially because, basically her entire confidant was built in the present as you're going through the flashback. It's like, as you're explaining what happens, that's how this bond of trust is created. That worked really, really well. And then, like, in Personas 3 and 4, where you have, like, where the full social link was essentially your entire party, that worked fine, too.
Right.
But yeah, when it's just, like, I'm just a character, and, like, it always felt really weird to me, especially in, like, original Persona 5, where it's, like, like, whether or not you know that he's going to be a party member, it's, like, you're up to what, rank like 5 or 6 when he joins you?
Yeah.
And then it's just like, oh, by the way, you retroactively unlocked all these bonuses that you obviously would have gotten earlier, but we didn't want to tell you that he was a party member. So I felt like that was all handled a little bit better in Royal.
It was a little awkward, I think, to a certain extent.
I actually do really like the one scene in his confidant, where he basically just turns to Joker and he's like, I want to be honest with you. I hate you.
Oh, yeah, I love that. It's like
that was
8, I think it's rank 8 or something like that.
I think so, because to me, that was kind of the first time where it's like, okay, you are letting your, like, I'm the good-natured detective prince. Like, that's the first time where it's like, oh, okay, we're doing this. Like, I genuinely like that. And that's... I know you don't really think he's a good character, and that's fine.
Oh no, I think he's a good character. I just don't like him.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what?
He's a great character. He's a great character. He's very interesting as a character. I just hate his guts.
When my absolute favorite thing with him, God, I feel bad. I feel like we're just kind of spoiling Persona 5 now. I feel like it's not that much of a spoiler to be like, oh, Akechi's not the super good guy, because like there are like DVD covers of Akechi with his evil face. Like,
I like the anime. The anime literally spoils his the cover.
One of my absolute favorite moments of Akechi, and you really only get this for like one day, is when you go into the third semester palace, when it's just Joker, Akechi, and Yoshizawa, and just for those brief couple of battles where Akechi gets to be your like Futaba, I love his dialogue. He's just so unhinged, and it's when he's like doing the battle commentary.
Yeah, I think that's like the better Akechi, when he's not being a total hypocrite to you. Like, he's just straight up just being a crazy dude. That works way better than.
Yeah, he's like I am just gonna be me. I have no pretense in trying to make you think I'm something I'm not. Like,
Yeah, totally agree. I think that's Goro at his best. I think is
third semester Goro.
Yeah. I think that's peak Goro right there.
I agree with that. This is such a dumb complaint, but okay, so whenever I play Royal, I love the Persona Q2 costumes. Just having the giant chibi versions of the characters. I love using those costumes to the point where I genuinely forget that Takeover is the battle music in Royal, because I'm just so used to only hearing like the Persona Q2 battle music when I play that game.
I think as soon as the game started for me, I changed it to the Persona 3 uniforms.
Oh yeah,
and
those are
for
good.
like half of the game, I forgot that I just had those, and I was like, I just assumed that we could change the music.
That Mass Destruction is not the Persona 5 battle music.
Yeah, it's just like, well, no, you see, I did a ranking of like the Persona 5 original music, and in the music, I didn't rank I didn't choose the Takeover song. They're like, oh, no Takeover. I'm like, I never heard it in the game.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, like. I could, like, if you asked me to like hum Takeover or sing any of it, I really couldn't, because it's like I'm just like Takeover, It's like because I don't know. I can sing the Q2 one. I know that one a lot better. But kind of what I was saying there. So a very minor complaint. I really wish the game unlocked this, is that you don't get a Q costume for Akechi's Black Mask. So it's like I want to use his Black Mask costume, but there's no way to have like I can't have everyone else be chibi and then just have like normal Akechi, or maybe I can. Maybe that's funny. I don't know, but I was really bummed that there's no Q2 version of his Black Mask, and some people are like, well, yeah, because obviously there wasn't one in Q2, and it's like, sure, but Yoshizawa got
exactly. Right?
It's like they could have made one for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he doesn't get one, so that was very sad to me. Like, you only get his white crow.
You get the worst of it.
It's okay. I don't like. I think the mask is a little silly, but like the costume itself, I thought was very funny.
You know, the name Crow made no sense to me until you see the black outfit.
Yeah, well, to me, like that was very funny to me, because it's like, you know, because like the whole kind of, I don't want to say the joke, but like the twist is that, you know, obviously it's like they know, like, you know, it's like Akechi's not fooling them. So to me, when Futaba was just like, how about Crow? I always imagine everyone else just kind of tensed up a little bit.
They're snickering about it.
Yeah, like, shut up, Futaba! We can't let him know that we know!
Yeah, right. That was like too on the nose, almost like, yeah, we know, but we're not going to tell you that we know.
I think if Akechi had not suggested Karasu, which I think is Japanese for crow, then it would have... But yeah, it's like, it's almost lucky that he did suggest that, but... Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know if he was more for like the player to like, hey, hing, wink kind of thing. Because they love to do that. I don't know why, but they love to give you the hints, and like you don't realize or something.
There's this is a little bit of a little off topic, but it's something that just makes me smile. Are you familiar with Scruffy Turtle's Persona 5 Adult Confident Alternate Universe?
I am not.
Okay, so real quick, just to kind of quickly recap it. Basically, he created this alternate universe for Persona 5 where a lot of the characters that were adults in Persona 5, like Sojiro and Kawakami and Iwai and everything, they're now teenagers. Like, they're the party members. I'll send you a link to it if you ever want to check it out yourself, but it's like, it's really cool. And so, you know, instead of Akechi, it's Shido. Like Shido is kind of the Akechi of the group. And, in the earliest sketches I saw for him, it was like his codename, Shido's codename was going to be Raven, and I was in a stream where he was like drawing Shido's Phantom Thief costume, which it's very similar to Akechi's. It's that like white kind of prince thing. It's like it's more purple than red, but we were kind of joking. It's like, is Raven really the most fitting name for him? And so we all, like in the chat and everything, we all kind of agreed eventually that Shido's codename should be Swan, because it's like a swan boat. And so we just I just thought that was very funny. Like I like his take on Shido.
Interesting. I have to check that out. I never heard of that, but
yeah, like I said, I'll send you a link to it. Like the persona designs are really good. Like Sojiro's the main character, and like his codename is Boss, obviously. And like Kawakami's got this like burlesque pirate phantom thief, and her persona's like Anne Bonny, who's like this Irish pirate. It's really cool. I really like the persona designs for it.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I googled it. I actually really like the Sojiro outfit, the Phantom Thief outfit they give him.
Yeah, it's like a mix of like almost like Joker mixed with Bloodborne. Yeah, it's really cool, and like EY makes a surprisingly good like Ryuji Junpei type character in it. Like it all just works really well.
Yeah.
And Tora's in it, and he's just like a big loud boy. I always imagine his voice in that sounds like the dude from My Hero Academia.
Who?
Not council president guy, but the guy with the glasses from My Hero Academia. The
guy with the glasses.
With like the engine feet or whatever.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I can't remember his name.
So I guess we have another question here. It's
what's up?
What game got you into Megaten?
I would say so. The game that I feel like I kind of mentioned earlier in the podcast, the first Megaten game I ever bought and played, and this is before I really knew what Megaten 1 was Demi Kids. I don't really say I don't necessarily say that's the game that got me into it. I think the game that really clicked for me was Raido Kuzunoha versus the Soulless Army.
Yeah,
because that was the one like I didn't know what that game was when I bought it. I saw it on the shelf, and I love the cover art for that game. That's one of my favorite pieces of Megaten art ever, is that cover. And I was just reading the back of the box, and everything about it just appealed to me. It was like, you're a detective in 1920s Japan, use your demons to solve cases. I was like, this sounds incredible. I don't even care what this is. And it did do some cool. It did do some cool stuff with that. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but it did some cool stuff with that.
I want to say the music in that game is really good.
Oh yeah, the Raido games are genuinely some of my favorite as far as Megaten soundtracks go.
Meguro did such a good job with that, because he does have like that jazzy 1920s music, and it's super good.
Yeah, the Lazy Detective Agency is one of my favorite tracks.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's why I use it in a lot of my videos. Like every demonic compendium, it's like I open with that track because it's just such a good, relaxing, like, let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's really good, and the plot of the game is really good too. I really wish they would like remake those games with like newish gameplay, like more hack and slash type. I think it will work really well if they added like more mechanics to the fighting and everything. It's cool. I really like the game a lot. I like the style of it and the characters, because it does have interesting like detective style storyline, but also there's demons and crazy shit.
Dawn from the second game, Dawn Tsukigata, is probably in my top 10 Megaten characters ever. He is such, because it's like you meet him and it's like, oh, you're the villain. And then you very kind of quickly realize it's like, okay, one, even if he is the villain, because obviously you can kind of side with him, even if he is your villain, he's got a really good point, and like I feel like that's always kind of a sign of a good villain, is one where it's like I can't completely disagree with you, because like a good villain is someone who thinks they're the hero.
Yeah,
is something I read once, and that's kind of how Dawn works. And it's like, and even if he was just the villain, he's just he is charming and fun and likable and has like this interesting personality that he's not just like. He's not like, oh, Devil Summoner, I will defeat you. No, he's this country assassin. Like, literally, like, when you fight him, he's like, let me hear you squeal, boy! And it's like, and I love that. He's got such a personality to him, and he's such a great character. If you've ever, for anyone out there who's not played King of Baden, I love Dawn.
Yeah, it's an interesting set of games. I really expected a third one at some point.
I keep... So I have nothing to like prove this. This is just like what my brain is trying to convince me is happening, is the fact that Soul Hackers 2 is basically Devil Summoner 5, but is not being called Devil Summoner, has me kind of hopeful that like we will get a Devil Summoner game that will essentially be Raido 3. It's like we've kind of split the Devil Summoner series in two now, where it's like you've kind of got the more cyberpunk ones and the more Raido ones. So maybe like I don't know if that's their plan at all. But.
Yeah, I agree with you. I had the same idea because it just makes a lot of sense. But then again, with Atlas, you never know. A lot of things make sense, like Persona 4 Golden on the consoles.
But you'd think so.
Yeah, and we don't get that stuff. So
I forget who, but someone was saying like Raido 3 should just play like a Yakuza game, and I was like, I would like that.
Yeah, that'll be cool. That'll be cool. I really like the Yakuza series, so.
Oh, I do too.
It'd be cool if they did something like that, because it will work pretty well for Raido. Pretty good stuff. I am really interested to see what they're gonna do next. Obviously, we have the 25th anniversary of Persona. We have the 30th anniversary of Shin Megami Tensei, right?
Oh yeah, I think it is this year, isn't it?
Yeah, it is this year too. So we have a lot of stuff going on.
It's like last year was the 25th for Persona, and obviously that's stretching into this year. This is also the 25th anniversary of Soul Hackers, which is why we're getting Soul Hackers too. And then like you said, 30th for SMT. But I feel like I mean, obviously we're already getting Soul Hackers, so I'm content for Megaten games this year. Like, obviously, but it's like I feel like this year is going to be more about announcements rather than releases.
I agree, because
and I'm okay with that, because we've already gotten Ultimax on consoles, modern consoles, and Soul Hackers 2.
Right. So, I mean, I think about it. Like, Atlas is such a small company, but they've been managing to do bangers year releases like an EA, like we're talking about, like every year we had like Persona 5, we had the dancing games that very next year, we had Strikers, Rojo, and then obviously Shin Megami Tensei 5, Nocturne, the Q games too, right? Like every year we just had Atlas games literally every year, and it's just crazy.
I've pointed this out to people, and it's something I like to kind of keep track of because I think it's interesting. And just to clarify, this is going purely by stateside releases, but it's like if you go back like from this year to like basically 15 years ago, so like 2007, so 15 years, there have really only been like three 3 years, 2007, 2017, and 2019. That only had one Megaten game released stateside, and that is insane. It's almost always like 2 or 3 or even more than that, because it was like 2008 we got like Bess and 4, and it was like 2009 it was like King of Bad, and then Devil Survivor and Persona 1 on PSP, and it's like pretty much every single year, with very few exceptions, has had at least 2 games. And then it was like 2017 was only Persona 5, which only Persona 5, like that, that's a huge game. And then 2019 was Persona Q2, and that was it. But like so many years, we get multiple games. Was it last year? It was it Strikers and Nocturne HD and Shin Megami Tensei 5, and then this year it's already Ultimax and Soul Hackers 2. So minimum, we were already getting 2 this year.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's another game. Sometime in between these 2 games, there's gotta be one more game in the middle.
I definitely think there's gonna be a holiday game. I feel like again, I don't know this off the top of my head. I'm sure someone can be like, oh, they didn't in 2020 or whatever. But I feel like Atlas Japan, I feel like there's usually a November game. Right,
right, yeah, we had
like
last year.
November, October, kind of around that period, because I think it was like last year it was last year it was SMT5, obviously, because that came out around the same time. But it was like year before that was Nocturne in Japan. Year before that was like Royal in Japan, was around October, November, or no, year before that was Royal or Q2. I don't remember which one.
Yeah, Q2.
Yeah. Whichever. Yeah. Oh yeah, Q2 was 2018 in Japan. So 2019 was Royal. So it's like I feel like there's always kind of been, there's usually a Megaten game around October, November. So I definitely think one of the announcements they're going to make soon will be for a game at least coming out in Japan. Hopefully with SMT5 and Ultimax and Soul Hackers 2, it really feels like Sega is kind of making good on what they were saying to kind of get at least very close to a worldwide release for these games.
I mean, they've been doing really good.
Oh yeah, they have. You know, I remember in ye olden days when like back in 2012 or whatever, they'd announce Soul Hackers 2 for August, and we'd be like, okay, so going by the usual math, we'll get it maybe by February if we're lucky. Like, so the fact that we're only getting it like 1 day later is incredible.
It's incredible. Yeah, it is. It's a big deal. New fans don't realize how the fact that we even get an English dub at all. Like, I think it's crazy. You know, because we have a lot of games that never even got like a dub for it. In fact, I think the most recent one will be Persona Q2 that didn't get a dub.
Q2 never got a dub, and that is a permanent sore spot for me because one of my most watched videos was me talking about Redux and believing that Redux should have had a dub. And I made the mistake of saying, it's like, Q2 will probably get one, and boy, do people love to point out that was wrong.
Don't you love when you say something and then people from the future come to your old video from like 2 years ago? Like, actually, and I'm like, yeah, but I made this before the game came out.
you know, okay, I wouldn't mind it, but no one ever stops by to be like, wow, you were so right about this. Like, thank you. Yes, I was. Like, you never get the opposite.
Yeah, it's always the people correcting you, or like from the future. I'm like, you do know this is a theory video, right? Like, you don't need to come on a theory video and tell me what happens in the future. I'm already in the future with you.
One that happens a lot is like almost 5-6 years ago. I did a video on like 10 demons that I'd like to see get 3D models, and I'm very happy to say, like, in the time since that video came out, it's like 7 out of 10 of them have 3D models now. Like, I think there's only like 3 left. So, good job. But people love to show up on that video and be like, actually, this demon has a 3D model in D2. And I'm like, great. D2 didn't even exist when I made this video. So, like, and like, it's funny because the pinned comment on that is actually like me making my own checklist of being like, these are the demons that have gotten 3D models since this video came out. But people still correct me on that, even though I'm like, I'm aware.
Yeah, like you definitely already knew that. It's one of those things, man. People just be like that sometimes. I think the community is kind of funny because there's like the community depending on which website you're in, right? Because the YouTube community is not the same as Twitter or Reddit or like TikTok, for example. I recently opened a TikTok account to do like these like smaller videos or something on it, and I did a top 5 spin-offs of Persona, and somebody was like, well, actually, Persona 5 Strikers is the sequel to Persona 5, and I was like, yeah, it's still a spin-off. You know, the spin-off is not necessarily doesn't, like, you do know everything else in this list is also a sequel or a canonical game, right?
Right.
Like the Persona 4 Dancing is the last sequel to Persona 4. You know, Persona 5.
That is so weird to think about. That like it's like, you know, obviously yes, like Persona 5 and Strikers does take place in the same timeline, and yes, takes place after Persona 4. But it's like, yeah, it's like canonically speaking, the ending of Dancing All Night is the last time we've seen these characters.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, I 5 shows that, like, oh, Risei's still singing. She put out an album called, like, Sapphire or something. Which, to me, that is, like, fan service cameo done right. Like, I've had a lot of people be like, oh, man, what Persona 5 character do you want to see in Persona 6? And I'm like, none. I want to see Persona 6 characters in Persona 6. But right. If they wanted to do, like, you know, like Ann as a model, so if maybe she's on, like, the cover of a magazine, I'm like, okay, that's a good little nod, that's world building, that's an Easter egg. But to me, just, if Persona 6 happens in wherever, and then it's just like, you know, it's like, oh, yes, hello, my name is Yusuke Kitagiwa, and I'm like, cool, it's like, yay, Yusuke, why are you here? Like,
yeah, I totally agree with you. I actually like how they did it in Persona 5. or even in Persona 3 because they do it the same. Like when you go and check on the TV and they
Yeah,
they
the
mention
TV shows.
In Persona 3, for example, they mentioned what is it? The big company from Persona 1.
Oh, Sebek.
Yeah, they mentioned them, and then they mentioned like some other stuff, like small little stuff and everything. And then in Persona 5, they literally mentioned Naoto, like they're doing like an interview with her or something like that. And I'm like, this is the kind of stuff that I like, because it's not so in your face that you're like, why is this character here? And why are they not actively helping with the story? Like, they should be able to realize there's something going on, right?
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, like, because that was something that I, like, and I'm not saying I wanted the characters to show up, because I think that would have just been really weird and random and not added to Persona 5 story. But to me, the fact that you go through all of Persona 5 knowing that, like, Mitsuru has this high-level government organization specifically designed to investigate weird happenings that might be Persona-related, and they never showed, like,
especially on Strikers.
Did the Shadow Strikers not investigate the Phantom Thieves at all?
They do. That's my biggest problem. Is the PubSec is the exact same government organization. PubSec it shows up in both Strikers and Persona Arena. Like this is canon. Anyone that is playing the games can verify me 100%. Literally, it's the same government organization. They have a different director in Strikers, but it's the same body of government. It pissed me off. It actually pissed me off because I'm like, why is the director not aware that there is a Shadows Operatives? Like it's a canon thing.
Yeah, like.
Like, why don't they just go and check on them? Oh, okay, the things happen. They talk about the shadows and the personas and everything. Like they should know that there's things going on, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Is it like a clearance thing? I don't know, but
I don't know if they're gonna backpedal on that. Maybe on the next Strikers games or something. How they did it on Ultimax and Arena.
Yeah. Also, okay, so I have a question about the Shadow Operatives. It's kind of bothered me. So, I'm gonna be honest. It's been like years since I really dove into like Arena and Ultimax, so I might be remembering this wrong.
Yeah.
So okay, if memory serves, so in the Shadow Operatives, you're given your number based on your rank. So it's like Mitsuru's number 1. I believe Akihiko is number 2. I think that was confirmed. She's like his right hand man, or he's like her right hand man, and like I believe it's confirmed Akihiko's number 2. I don't know if they flat out said that. And then I remember Aigis is like, she's number 5. Which struck me as very, very odd. Because she once ran C's for a while.
I think... yeah, go ahead.
So, yeah, I don't think it was ever established who 3 and 4 were. And I remember, like, before Ultimax, most people, just kind of assumed it was like, oh, it's probably like Junpei and Yukari, because they were in C's and they have, like, that seniority. But then it was like, Ultimax reveals that, like, pretty much everybody else who was in C's is like an auxiliary member of the Shadow Operative. So I don't know if that. I would assume if they're auxiliary members, they probably don't have numbers.
Yeah.
So I really just want to know who like 3 and 4 are. Like what Persona users.
So I want to say that I think I know the answer, but it's my personal. This is my personal take on this. So this is literally not canon. It's not proven or anything like that. But in the beginning of Persona 3. If you pay attention to the news in the TV, they talk about the Nanjo group from Persona 1 separated from the Kiriju group 10 years ago. That's when the accident happened. That's when the big accident happened. And the Nanjo group knows about shadows and personas because literally Kei Nanjo, the son of the of the Nanjo group, was involved in this. So my guess is that number 3 is Nanjo. I think that they went back together to that's my personal guess though. I don't know anything about it. They never confirmed it. But the fact that they were working together 10 years ago when the accident happened leads me to believe that that's what it is. Because even the Shadow.
A lot of people do believe Nanjo is one of the members. Because there's also that one, like, screenshot where you see, like, Mitsuru and, like, a bunch of silhouettes. and it's like there's like one person where you can kind of be like, oh yeah, that's obviously Junpei, even though the only obviously is that he's
like
wearing a baseball hat. And then there is like one other one who kind of has like Nanjo's cowlick or like his little hair thing. So
like the little hair sticking out. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think that's him. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think there's one that people were convinced was Ikichi from Persona 2. I don't necessarily believe that one because I think canonically speaking, Ikichi is not currently a Persona user. Because it wasn't
it all depends
the whole point. Well, I know it depends on like what the player does, but that's why I'm kind of saying like canonically. It's like I know there's some player intervention there.
Isn't
but
that it just depends on who joins your party. I think
it's dependent on whether or not you restore their memories.
Yeah, right.
But I was always kind of under the impression that like not restoring their memories was the quote unquote correct path.
Because that allows for Persona 3 to happen, right? You're right.
Yeah. But I don't know. I could be wrong. But yeah, it's like I want to say like canonically speaking, like in the universe of say like Persona 5. I think like Ikichi, Lisa, and Jun are not currently Persona users. Like they might have the potential. I don't know if they still played the game or something.
I don't know. But I think also if you want to think of like diving in even deeper in the Persona 3 anime that they did, Persona what is it called? Persona
Trinity Soul?
Trinity Soul, yeah, and Akihiko shows up there, and he talks about how adults lose, like, their Persona abilities over time. Yeah. So, I don't know if that's ever been confirmed, because we don't really have a lot of adult Persona users, other than, like, what we see when they awaken.
So I know, so, I again, plug for my channel, I actually did a year-long series talking about Trinity Soul. And I feel like a lot of people... Now, Trinity Soul is non-canon. Atlus themselves have basically confirmed that. But a lot of people, if memory serves, a lot of people do kind of latch on to kind of what you said, where it's like, oh, Trinity Soul says that, like, oh, adults can't use personas. And it's like, no, they don't say that. They just say that, like, basically at a certain age... I think the line in the anime is, like, when someone is old enough to become an officer. Which is probably around the mid-20s, which is actually when your brain kind of stops developing. So it's like there is some logic to that. But it was saying like the usage of a persona it's like rarer or it's like harder to maintain. And it's
It's not necessarily that they can't use it. It's just
It's not that Trinity Soul just says like, no, adults can't use personas. But a lot of people seem to think that's what they did. Because the main villain still has a persona. Rio has a persona. It's just, again, it's regulated with pills, kind of similar to what Strega did. Mm. I don't know if they were implied to be the exact same pills, but yeah, it was more just like, no, when you reach a certain age, persona usage kind of becomes a little more like harder to maintain or unstable. It wasn't them just saying like, no, adults can't use persona. So anyone.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's, like, I get that people don't like Trinity Soul, but I've never really liked the people that are like, of course it's non-canon, because they said adults can't use personas, even though that's a lie. And I'm like, that's not what happened. Like,
yeah. I actually like Trinity Soul. I think it's a good anime. I think it's interesting. I just don't think it connects very well with Persona 4, with Persona 3. But I think on its own, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think, like, yeah, it is a little slow in places, and it's like, I'll admit, yes, it would have been cool to see more, like, cool Persona fights, because there really aren't... There's a couple really good Persona moments, but yeah, it's like, it's a very slow, character-driven series.
Yeah.
And I get that that's not for everybody, but it's... I really like that the story just kind of focused on Persona users versus Persona users. There's no just like, oh, there's a shadow, there are monsters, we have to beat them. It's like no, we have this group of Persona users that's basically killing other Persona users. We need to like stop this. Like I liked it. I like a lot of those characters. I think Kanaru from Trinity Soul is actually like one of my favorite characters. Like she has such a good arc in that.
That's pretty also interesting because it does feel like they merged like Persona 1, 2, and 3 in like one single story, because the intro of Persona Trinity Soul is basically Persona 1. You know, like they're playing the Persona game, you know, calling the Persona or whatever. They're pulling the Persona out of you or whatever. And that's kind of like what triggers the main protagonist using being a Persona user and everything. And that's like literally Persona 1. That's how they trigger their, awakening their own personas and everything. And then main protagonist having a brother that is a cop, that is also a Persona user. That's Persona 2 right there.
Yeah. I didn't realize this when I first watched it or second watched it or multiple times watched it. I did not know that the older brother Ryu or whatever his name was. I didn't. He is the same voice actor as Dio from JoJo. I did not know that.
That's cool. I didn't know that either.
Because I remember there was a clip I used in one of the videos where he is just letting out this absolutely anguished scream, and I was like I played that in my video basically just to be like, bravo, dude. And then somehow way later after I did the series, or else I would have talked about it in it, someone was like, yeah, it's like, of course he did a good job, that's Dio's actor. I was like, I did not know that.
Nice.
So that was kind of cool.
That's pretty cool. But I want to thank you so much for coming by today.
Thanks for having me. I
really
probably
cool
rambled a little bit
to bring you in. That's what this is for. This is just to kind of have that conversation, as random as it may seem. We talked about all the different subjects, and of course, everyone, if you want to follow Strain42, he's on YouTube, he's on Twitter, does a lot of cool videos, like he mentioned some of the stuff that he does, so check him out. Really cool guy, and I appreciate you coming by and talking to me about the different subjects we talked about today, and thank you everybody for coming by and chatting over here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good night, everybody.
Good night.